the meta of tomorrow, code talkers. What's going on, guys? Pegasus from the Wise Guys. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you sub, make sure you hit the bell. I'm going to start off with an introduction to the deck, be that a deck profile that is in the current game, but then we got to talk a little bit more after that, and we're going to get into that. So let's get into the video, shall we? YG baby, let's get it. So you guys saw what happened in Argentina. You know the heat soul is coming, but we're here in Kansas City, and we're here with Mark, the homie, and he's playing Code Talker, so we're gonna look at Code Talker.
Yep.
You like the deck a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I've had this deck for pretty much the day Microcoder came out and was available to everybody. I picked the whole deck up, and I've been on this deck for a pretty good time.
Okay.
All right.
I ain't got nothing to say. I'm just gonna look.
All right. So first off, the card that makes the deck run, you got Microcoder. So when it's in your hand, as long as you have another monster, you can use this card in your hand as a material for the link summon of a Code Talker monster. And its other effect is when it's sent to the graveyard, you can search your deck for any sign, at spell, or trap.
And I've heard one of those cards is very, very good.
Indeed. It also has an additional effect clip to it that if it's used on the field, you can add any Cyber's monster. So this thing could potentially search your entire deck in its entirety. All 40 cards can be searched by this out of your deck.
That is very, very key.
It comes up later as you play in the game, but at the beginning doesn't go later. After that, we're playing 2 Code Generator. So this does the same thing as Microcoder, but it foolishes any monster with less than 1200 attack.
Usually Dotscaper, right?
Usually Dotscaper, yeah. It also additionally, it can, if it's used on the field, it can send anything at that point, which it can becomes a foolish, but it's good in all situations, and it's always good. Its other effects doesn't matter. Now, this is the one that actually will fade out things really hard. This is Code Radiator. What this does is, it's the same thing. You can use it as material in your hand, and when you do that, you can target a card or a monster your opponent controls, and negate its effects and reduce its attack to 0. Now, that's actually really good for forcing out negates. I used it today to negate a Crystal Wing, so he obviously had to negate it.
I know that you can use it on turn 1, but you'd rather use it on turn 2?
Yeah, this is a card you would use later on.
Okay.
Additionally, if it's used on the field, you can target 2 monsters and reduce their attacks and negate their effects, which is actually really good.
And it's water.
More is water.
Right.
Next, you're playing literally next best card, Lady Debug. Searches almost your entire deck minus like 3 cards. Debug's Debug. Card is on the limited list for a reason, but they gave it back. Next, we're playing honestly your best starter, which is Idly. So for those who didn't play back during Goki format, this thing is, she's the nuts. So you summon her.
It's a small glare. I'm just moving over a little bit. There you go.
You summon her, link her away, and then you give her to your opponent. And then they can't summon anymore. They can't special summon at all. So the only way for them to get rid of this is to attack. And most of the time, that's not even going to do them any good, because you're going to protect yourself and it, and then it's not going anywhere. This card prevents your opponent from nibbing you. This card prevents your opponent from infirming you. And they can't evenly. There's a lot of things it takes away.
Nice.
And this card is your automatic win con. Some decks literally cannot play through this. And it's just going to put you where you want to be. Next, you're playing a ton of 1-ofs, but they're like just general extenders.
Scripton. General Zod. We'll call him General Zod.
Yeah. So this thing can summon himself by banishing a Cybers, which does come up. This is much better in the late game, but it's fine at all times. The other effect is when it leaves the field, you can actually target a banished Cybers and put it back into the deck, which is pretty good.
I've seen there's a combo with Dotscaper.
Yeah, it's crazy. Next is one of the older ones, but still good. Cyber's Gadget. It's basically like a lot of the other gadgets, so only he grabs one back from the grave. And then when he is used for Link Summon, he produces a token. So he's always going to put you in a spot you want to be. He just extends your plays out really hard.
It's like a Sky Blaster almost.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right.
I'm playing 1 backup secretary as your light target to search. It's just a free summon if you control Cybers. Just keeps going. Next, playing 1 Mathematician. Mathematic Adion, he basically just gets to summon himself for free, which That's always good. You always want to have monsters on the field to progress your combos and progress your board state.
Free extenders.
Free extenders. Next is probably your personal favorite, because this thing is just always at the fore end of a Cyber's combo. Doscaper, the first time it's sent to the graveyard, it summons itself, and the first time it's banished, it summons itself. Both effects are once per duel, pretty standard. Hey, and it's got 2100 defense. That's big. Sometimes decks just can't get over that.
Right.
General Extender, Link Amplifier, just drop it to a zone a Link monster points to, and that's it. And then next is one of my personal favorite cards in this whole deck, is Gadget Ignister. So what this thing does is, you target a monster you control, I think Cyber specifically, you negate its effects,
Watch the +9 video about Ignister. Go ahead, though.
and then you summon this. And then when this leaves the field, you can target any monster you control. It becomes unaffected to your opponent's card effects till the end of their next turn. So this card will sit there. Any monster you want to stick around, it's gonna stick around.
I was play testing with this online, and the combos will actually be after this. And to watch that make a Trigate untouchable was pretty comical.
It's pretty nasty. Next, playing 2 hand trap, playing Droll. I don't like playing low impact hand traps, so this one has a little bit more value in terms of if your opponent walks into it and they need to keep going in, it'll stop them in their tracks and kind of give you the leeway you want to keep playing.
In your opinion, when Heat Soul comes out, would you play a lot more hand traps, or does it depend on whatever the meta is then?
Normally it's going to depend on what the meta is, but I think for Code Talkers, I think hand traps aren't terrible in this deck. You can play them in minimal numbers. I feel that's better just playing in the minimals.
Right.
Because if they show up, they show up. If they don't, they don't. You're not going to care, because the rest of the deck will kind of explain that. Moving on to spells, playing Homage Reborn, General Extenders are always good. And then we're playing One-Sided Optimals.
Now, a lot of people like argue against this card, or they love this card. Why do you like the card?
I like it because it's a great extender, and unironically, if in weird situations,
it's sitting right up under that glare.
in weird situations where an access code talker can't guarantee the game, you can just leave other monsters that can guarantee the game, and this will guarantee they push through. Because when your Cyber code talkers attack, they become Armades, so your opponent can't respond to any. So, hey, that's pretty good.
I'm just adding my small input because I'm trying for this to be educational. I've noticed it's an out in the bureau.
It is actually. Because if they give you that token, and you still, this thing's primary effect is to give you an additional normal summon. Well, that's pretty crazy by itself, because you just hold this until they nib you, and then it's just like, okay, let me just keep playing because my deck just wants to go as fast as it can.
Right. 100%.
Yep. Next, callback. One of combo deck, half combo, but you still got to get where you got to be.
And it's still a trap card.
Still, yep. And then Sonic Mining, Rhoda, it's always good. Now, we're going on to Codex. This is Rhoda on steroids. and that's saying something mild. So every time you would link summon a code talker, you can target that code talker and then search your deck for a code talker of the same attribute. So you can chain block with this, or you can prioritize however you want, but this is going to guarantee you're going to get something. You're always going to have a full hand as long as you have this. If you open this, your hands just get real crazy if your opponent doesn't have answers. They can have one Ash all they want. That one Ash ain't going to do nothing. This is why this deck won't care about Ash at all. If it opens this, if you Ash this deck, you're just going to get laughed at, because I'm still just going to +9 on your face, just like that. It's fun.
Just like Ignister, go ahead and say it. I know you watched.
Just like
he watched the video, unlike you other scrubs. Go watch the other video.
Indeed. And then Desires, because you want to draw. Honestly, the only card I dislike to get banished would be Gachiri. That's about it. Other than that, the rest of the stuff can more or less go. I don't mind. Same concept with Salad. Now we're moving on to the traps. I'm going to save this one for last because I like this one. Playing 3 Torrential Tribute, because this deck can very easily make a small board that cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects.
And we'll return to that, but you'll understand what he means in a second.
Yep. And this card is just a really, really hard blowout. My board won't be affected, but yours will. I'm going to kill you next turn.
And then you draw them.
Yep. And then strike, because strike a strike, it's always good. And then the final trap in this deck, which is one of my personal favorites, is Sonnet Conflict. Sorry.
Right.
So what this does is,
it's so damn good he got choked up a little bit.
so this is a searchable counter trap, by the way. If you control a Code Talker, when your opponent activates the effect of a monster or a spell or a trap, negate the activation and banish it. As an additional effect to it, whatever cards you banish, your opponent cannot activate a card with the same name until the end of their next turn. So if you hit a crucial piece to a combo that requires multiple cards,
so that's so good.
That's going to stop that for the rest of the game pretty much, because you're going to kill your opponent on the follow-up every single time with this deck.
Yeah, that card really is it's an Omni Negate that tells them they can't activate it again.
Yeah.
In case it's a Shaddoll Fusion or something.
Something like that. But if you do that to a Shaddoll Fusion, you're already in a great spot as it is.
Right.
Alright, moving on to the extra deck. There's no need for a side deck. My sides are all almost always the same.
Yes.
So,
Specific to your meta, they'll figure it out.
So you're playing one Link Rebo. All it requires is one Cyberse monster, level 4 lore. This thing unironically negates traps, which can be good.
Over a little bit. Serious glare right over there.
We got one Talkback Lancer. You don't have to play this. I would actually rather it be another Link Rebo in my opinion. But its effect is you contribute something it points to, and then bring back a Link 3 or lower Cyberse Link monster from your graveyard. So it can help you progress into the late game, but you'll almost never go into it because you'll be killing your opponent really, really fast. Next is Update Jammer for the 2s. Yeah, Update Jammer's Update Jammer. If you go into it, you go into it. If you don't, you don't. Next, we're playing
killing people with access code.
Exactly. We're playing 2 Splash Mage. Splash Mage is like one of your better Link 2s to extend into. It's going to always bring you something back just to keep it going. If you make it as the game progresses, this will net you more pluses because you'll bring back your coders, and then they'll get their on-field effects as well to give you additional pluses. So if you bring back a coder, you're going to get a rotor for any monster you would potentially need. Bullish any monster you need, or blank out 2 monsters your opponent controls. It's just a good time. Then you have Code Inverted. He's kind of like Splash Mage, only a little bit worse. It only comes up when you have Codec to search the light to immediately special it, which is good. But other than that, it's all fodder for your Link 3s. One regular Code Talker, so
he's actually the MVP.
He's actually the MVP, man. This thing will hit the field sometimes and be really surprisingly hard to get over. Because when it's co-linked, it can't be destroyed by battle by card effect. And it gains 500 attack for every time it's co-linked, so it can gain up to 1,000 attack.
It's ironic about a lot of these cards. Like a lot of people, my friend never noticed the part about they can't use the card for the rest of the. Yeah, that's nuts. Just like that has a secondary effect. It's actually
exactly. That's it for the Link 2s. On to Link 3s, we're playing one shooting code. So if anyone doesn't know what this does, at the start of the battle phase, you can activate the effect. It can attack up to the number of times it's co-linked. And then at the end of the battle phase, for every monster it destroyed, you get to draw a card.
+1.
Yeah, +1. And it gains attacks equal as well.
Well, +1 on the attack.
Yeah. And then it's okay. You'll rarely make it. You'll only make it if, like, for some reason, Access Code Talker has been removed from you. And then, then you have your real big deal, Transcode. Everybody knows what he does. And then you have your Xcode. So this card's actually fairly interesting in the combo because what it does is when it's summoned, it targets a zone your opponent controls in the main monster zone and knocks it out. They can't use it, which actually can come up in certain unique matchups where
it feels like it's Master Rule dependent. Like
exactly.
Master Rule 4 had been disgusting, but like now I don't know.
If you use it at the right time against a Dragon Link player, you can kind of put some weird pressure on them because you can take away a zone that they would need for their Dragon Link combo, which can come up. Yeah,
that's true. That's very true.
That's like the main reason I've opted to keep it in because you take their
in other words,
middle zone, then you're going to put a bunch of weird pressure on them and they can't do their Dragon Link stuff.
So in other words, point to LP and a pisty up your ass.
Pretty much. That's it for the Link 3s. Let's go to Link 4s. We're playing 1-0 Burrows because it's super easy to make. If you do this in the right matchup, this card will just win you the game outright.
And you sit it right here, right?
Yep, you set it right there. That way, it's always going to get triggered.
Okay, I got you.
Because you always want your opponent to be triggered by you being triggered. Next, we're playing.
That seems really good against
Yeah.
certain, like a Tri-Brigade, for example.
It's really good against Tri-Brigade because they will make it super big. And it's also surprisingly good against Draco because the moment their board's gone, they cannot rebuttal from that, and they just kind of struggle from there.
True.
Next, we're playing 1 Avermax. Avermax. Some decks just struggle against him, period. Super easy to make, super easy. Now, on to literally your big guy who's going to win you the game every time, access code. We all know what he does at this point. He comes out, he ends games. And then, making his return, Firewall Dragon.
Just in case y'all forgot. And this is the old school one.
This is the old school one. We don't have the Ghost Rare because we're poor people.
He's cheating. He's been cheating. He's been using the old Firewall effect all day.
Hey man, don't tell nobody.
But yeah, bro, now we're going to get into combos. Yep. We appreciate y'all.